Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm going to go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's hard to do stuff when you're reading other stuff. JC, you've ever done that?
I do know a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're reading something else, but you're talking something else. So, good morning, folks. We'll have JC on the Titan tomorrow. We'll also have Mike Morgan from ESPN join us. There will be no show tomorrow. Friday, we'll crank back up. We'll have Brent Beer give us a recap of college football heading into the weekend. And JC and I will have our Peachland Dental weekend picks. We'll also have our Thanksgiving Day picks today as well.
Okay.
There's four football games tomorrow, one college, 3 pros. And anyway, last night, not a whole lot. Had a little action last night. I was watching my national champs in college basketball, the Creighton Blue Jays. You like them, don't you, JC?
I do like them. I like them.
I told you they are loaded. And let me tell you something. I've only seen like 2 games of Kentucky. I've seen about 1 game of Tennessee. I've seen the Gators play. I haven't seen Auburn play. If anybody's better than Arkansas in the Southeastern Conference, holy cow, they are loaded. I think they had the number 1 recruiting class. They have 3 lottery picks, and boy, are they good.
They are
really,
good.
really
And
good.
one of their better players did not play last night. Jay Billis.
He was the number one player in America. Nick Smith Jr., a guard.
Yeah,
he's a little banged up, but boy, what a game that was.
It was a great game, and I love the Maui Invitational out there. And Jay Billis just couldn't quit slurping on him. He loves both those teams. He says both those teams can beat anybody in the country.
I agree.
It's hard to argue. I mean, they look very, very good at what they did. They scored a lot of points, played good defense. It's a good game to watch this early in the year. I actually watched it myself, QB. So that's saying something for me to get into any kind of basketball before Christmas in college.
Well, Creighton's got a couple of Gator ties, so to speak.
Yeah.
Andrew Nemhard's little brother is their point guard, a phenomenal player. Mike Miller's son's on that team. They have maybe their best player is a transfer from South Dakota State. I mean, just think about that. But he's a phenomenal player. Baylor Shireman is his name.
Yeah, Shireman. Saw him last night.
He can fill it up. But did you know he was a Jackrabbit last year?
I did not know that he was a Jackrabbit, but basketball, you find him from everywhere.
You learn those things on this program, JC.
It's obvious. You do, yeah.
Andy says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, Shane, they're calling yesterday's Mexican-Poland 0-0 World Cup match a classic. As an offensive guy, what's your take on that? Well, Andy, it sounds like it was miserable to watch. I have nothing against soccer, so I don't want to get blasted by all our loyal soccer viewers. I have yet to turn on 1 minute of the World Cup. Not 1 minute. And I probably won't. I can't get into it.
When I saw the reaction of England's fans, wherever they were, after they scored 1 goal against Iran, who is probably one of the worst teams in there, I thought to myself, damn, these people need something to cheer for. These last 6 years have been hell for them. I mean, they scored 1 goal against Iran, and the place erupted as if, as if there was a home run in the outfield at Starkville or Oxford. Look, it's a big deal for soccer folks. Soccer is important throughout the world, as we know. This is the biggest event. A lot of controversy surrounding this event because of the location. But you've got pretty much most of the best players in the world playing, even though it's at the wrong time of the season. It's at the wrong time of the season because of where it's being played. It's being played there because of money that was paid 10 years ago. There's so much going on that it's just like, wow, this is too much to deal with. But when they play, this is supposedly the best soccer in the world. Who knows?
I did see I don't know if it was like during one of the half times of one of the
Yeah,
basketball games. They showed some highlights. I think it
yeah,
was at Argentina, who's favored to win
yes.
it, got
So
beat.
they got they are saying that is one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history.
That's kind of like the Americans beating the Russians in the Olympics.
It was similar to that. You could say that. Yeah, it would be similar to that. Saudi Arabia has never been a force on the world stage in soccer, and they beat a team that has so-called one of the greatest players ever. And here's the other thing, QB, this World Cup thing is like every 6 years or whatever. How do you know who's the same player 6 years later, right? So this guy Messi is supposed to be this big-time, all-world great player, and every 6 years you can't tell me he's not a different player. But yet there he is every 6 years playing, I guess, and they think of him as the same guy, and it's not true. You can't be the same guy 6 years later, I don't think. So anyway, it's kind of overhyped if you ask me, but I understand it because it's a world stage and the world loves soccer.
Do you think I should try to get a soccer expert to come on here and give us a
I
rundown
really
of the World
think
Cup?
you would probably lose all of your football gift fans. You might gain a couple of soccer fans. The net effect would be negative, QB.
Yeah, well, they get pissed off. All our loyal listeners get pissed when we start start talking about golf. So I can't imagine what they would do if we started talking soccer. And here we are talking soccer.
Yeah, no, let's just move on. I gave you the quick update. It's kind of like the way you look at hockey. It's in and out.
I love hockey. I love playoff hockey, but I just
that's true. Yeah,
that's the thing is NBA and NHL go forever. And I know every game counts because you're trying to get seedings in the playoffs, but it just doesn't seem like it. Whereas football, you only play so many games, and every game matters so much. All right, we got a bunch of texts I need to get to here.
Yeah, like baseball. I have the same problem with baseball.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. John says Becky Burley's on the other line. She would like to speak with y'all. All right, Josh from Tifton, Georgia says, Shane, do you see us hitting DL spots hard in the transfer portal this offseason, maybe even the JUCO route to bridge the gap for the incoming freshman class with some physicality? Love the show. You and JC are money besides his betting tips.
What?
Yes, I do think we're going to hit the portal hot and heavy at every position. I don't think we won't just sign guys just to sign guys. There's going to be a need based deal. So appreciate the text.
What's the biggest need, QB?
Oh, it's just all over the place.
Well,
everywhere.
Can you focus on one area?
It's no different than whenever you come around the NFL draft, take the best available player, whether you need him at that spot or not. I mean, right now, obviously, you don't need running backs. I think our running back room is very good. But if there's a Jahmyr Gibbs sitting out there, you take him. So
you get the player.
We'll see. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Anonymous texter, any reason Kitna couldn't be given a chance to play, or did the lack of running game mix that? I'm not sure what he's referring to.
Well, he just wants to see Kitna have more time on the field. But
okay, Ronald in Pensacola says the Gators have 4 total seniors on the depth chart. One of them is a second-team punter. Amazed the media has seemingly not noticed this. Well, they have, but I've mentioned it several times on the broadcast, but that doesn't mean a whole lot in today's world because just because you have young players playing doesn't mean they're going to be on your team next year. They can haul butt. All right, another text here from Josh in Mississippi. I was wondering what your take is on Kamari Wilson. From what I can see on TV, he seems to play pretty good and one of the few guys on defense that wraps up when he tackles. I know he was highly rated. From what you see, is he going to be a future? He has a lot of potential. He is out of position a lot of times, but I think a lot of it has to do with inexperience. When teams run play action pass, he gets lost at times, but he is going to be a good player. Daryl says, Shane, I had a guy that works for me yesterday that's a soccer fan trying to explain the World Cup to me yesterday. I got lost in the middle of the conversation and started daydreaming, and I looked like a ghost. I agree. I want to know how they come up with all the groups or whatever they call them, the little pods they play in.
Yeah.
How they determine who gets in those is it. I would like to know.
I understand that.
Okay, here we go. I already read that one.
QB,
All right, last text, and we'll move on. This is from Levi. How about those Creighton Blue Jays taking down Musselman and his Razorbacks in an absolute rock fight last night? Yeah, it was a hell of a game. Two wonderful teams that could both win the national title.
Yes. I'm really kind of pissed right now. I had a thing pulled up on my phone last night that would describe what the 12-team playoff would look like today after the weekend we've had, and I'm missing it. And I guess the point I'll make is, it would look really cool to have these teams traveling. And I think the biggest thing for me on this playoff, because it seems to come up now more and more as we get toward the end of the year and we start talking about the college football playoff rankings. To me, QB, you're going to give the top 4 seeds the week off. But in my opinion, they need not only the week off, but an on-campus game, because for a top 4 seed to win a national title, you're asking them to travel to 3 neutral sites. And that would be impractical for the fans. It would not be reasonable for the players to have to do that. And the other teams get an on-campus game. So to me, you would cut down travel and give these teams that deserve it not just a week off. You need to give them a home game on campus. And I hope that gets more play, because I don't hear enough of it. I only hear that the teams seeded 5 through 9 would get an on-campus game. I think you got to give the top 4 teams an on-campus game. I think Georgia, in every which way, shape, and form, should have a game in Athens in the college football playoff when they start to organize this, and not have to go play in the Sugar Bowl, followed by this bowl, followed by that place. And so, I hope they think about that, because fans traveling is what helps this. And I don't think it's realistic to believe that fans can travel 3 separate locations or neutral sites in a month's time. So let's hope that happens. That's the only point I wanted to make on that. You can fill in the brackets the way you want to with the rankings. I think it's pretty clear. It's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. I'm going to go get a TCU hat today at the Rally House. And I was hoping to wear it, but I'll wear it on Friday. They've got a big game with Iowa State that would clinch the Big 12 title for them in the regular season, put them in that game to play for a playoff spot. So there's a lot of anticipation in little old Fort Worth, which is not very far from where I'm sitting right now. And so we got to go root for the Frogs. I don't care about Ohio State and Michigan's loser. I think either one would be out based on their lack of scheduling out of conference. And I think the weakness of their conference hurts them. And frankly, I think Georgia is clear and away as an odds-on favorite to win this at even money. I don't know if I can remember seeing that this early in the year, in the playoff or postseason.
So did anything last night, and we'll talk more with Mike Morgan about it, but anything surprise you with the committee?
Well, no, I mean, it didn't, other than maybe, and we talked about this, LSU jumping to 5 QB. That puts them.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah. Well, that puts
I'm an SEC homer.
No, you are, and I see what you mean. But that puts them in prime position to win the SEC championship and go to the playoff. It just does. And Tennessee took care of that controversy by losing to South Carolina. It basically mutes the win they had at LSU. It's unfortunate, but that's some of the problem with these expanded playoffs, is that some of these regular season games now kind of go by the wayside. Tennessee embarrassed LSU, and it really won't matter if they beat Georgia and if they beat Texas A&M.
Because I personally think Clemson and USC should be ahead of the 2 lost teams. I don't care who they lost to, who they played, or whatever. It is what it is. I did a show with Coach Spurrier yesterday. He said college football is one of the most unfairest sports there is out there. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, it's always been that way.
You don't know what your schedule is going to be like when you have a decent team, and it's not your fault that you're playing those people, and you never know. It's all about timing. Think about Georgia. Georgia didn't play anybody worth a darn. I guess Mississippi State's decent from the West.
You're right. They haven't, and neither has Ohio State or Michigan played anybody worth a darn.
But that's not their fault. It's whoever made the schedule, the conference.
So the only way to try to fix this, in my mind, and I didn't see the segment with you and Coach, but I think the best way and the only way to truly fix this is to expand the playoffs to 12 teams, which is what they will do. I just want that expansion, and I would like you to ask Mike what he feels about that. giving the teams with the bye an on-campus game to me is absolutely. I know the bowls are important. Blah 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 blah. You can still fill the bowls up with teams. You got to give that team that gets the bye a home game and get those fans, the Georgia fans and the Ohio State fans, whoever it is, 1 through 4, deserve a home game if we go to a playoff. Playoffs is the only way to make this fair based on the imbalanced nature of scheduling, and that's 100% right.
Yeah, and this year would be wonderful to kick off the 12-team playoff because
really
if you think about it, let's just take Tennessee. Let's say they did happen to get beat and Hendon Hooker still was able to play the rest of the year. They probably still would make the 12-team playoff, and they would be dangerous. Alabama would be dangerous. So it would definitely be interesting. All right, real quick, are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Darlene Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker, M. Parrish, will provide you with fast, friendly, reliable service. Give her a call today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. Speaking with JC on the Titan Hotline, we'll have Mike Morgan in just a little bit. John asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon. QB, do you think Friday night is the last time we see Anthony Richardson play as a Gator?
Oh,
I do.
Wow. Yeah.
I believe that.
He's going to be talking to some folks, so he's going to try to get an idea of what his situation in the draft looks like. It would really help.
He's going to be a first-round draft pick. So I'm just my personal opinion. I have zero inside information. I haven't talked to his posse. I haven't talked to anybody. I do not think this will. I think this will be his last game. I think he will be going to the National Football.
He won't play in a bowl game. You don't think he'll play in a bowl game?
Why should he?
Well, because he said it after, I guess.
Well, maybe he does. I don't think he comes back next year. I don't think I think this is his last year. I said it at the beginning of the year, and I'm sticking to my guns. Sticking to my guns. All right, JC, let's do our Peachland Dental. Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. We're going to do our Turkey Day picks today, and then obviously we'll pick the weekend games on Friday.
Okay.
We have the Egg Bowl is going to be very interesting.
It is now.
I mean, if you follow Lane Kiffin, which you follow Lane on Twitter, if people missed it, some dude like JC working at the local TV station in Tunica, Mississippi, or wherever he was, he busted out this post that Lane will be accepting the Auburn job on Friday for Auburn's game, blah, 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 for the Iron Bowl. Then Lane retweeted how that guy's losing his job to some other local reporter out of Belzona. So I just think it's interesting. I mean, Lane loves dealing. He loves Twitter, but I don't know what to make of it because I don't feel like Lane would be doing all of that and then haul ass.
Well, no, he's basically said all of these reports of him leaving prior or after the Egg Bowl is news to him. So Auburn has seemed to set its sights on two guys, Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze. I would look at Bobby Petrino too if I was Auburn, but those are the three guys or two guys, I should say, that we get all this so-called great information on that's going to be hired at Auburn. But Lane Kiffin, I think, has truly got his mind on the Egg Bowl. I think he's never lost the Egg Bowl. He wants. Has he lost the Egg Bowl? He may have lost when the guy did the dog pee in the back of the end zone. Was he on that? No, that was Matt Luke. So he has not lost the Egg Bowl. So,
Lane's only been there for how many years? 2 years, right? This is third year.
Yeah, so he's 2-0 in the Egg Bowl.
Leach has never won, so they came in at the same time.
So that he wants to win this game, and I think Mississippi State has a great chance to win it. I think right now Ole Miss is kind of reeling a little bit. So I'm going to take Mississippi State. I'm going to take the 2, and I think they're going to get 2. I'm going to go with them. I'm not confident at all. I think Ole Miss could easily win this game by 10 points, but I'm not confident. But I think State has the material this year to maybe pull this one out. The total is 59.5 points, QB. That's a lot of points.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Ole Miss is near and dear to my heart. I'm a diehard Rebel.
You got to take them.
But with Brooke going to Mississippi State, I mean, I think Mississippi State's the better football team. I've said it all year long. Ole Miss has been – you talking about a team being fortunate about the damn schedule. It's them. I think the cowbells will be ringing really loud, and I think they win.
Hey, QB, let's do these 3 NFL games while we got them up real quick.
Well, that's what I said we were going to do.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Well, we've got a game that I find very interesting that looked really bad a month ago, but you've got the red hot Detroit Lions, who can just do no wrong right now, coming off a win against the Giants, 9.5-point favorites on Turkey Day against your beloved Buffalo Bills. Do you have the stomach to take those points and take the Lions?
Oh, I love the Lions. I think they're really good on offense. Jared Goff's a pretty good quarter. I know Mark Brunell's their quarterback coach. He loves Jared Goff.
Yeah, he does.
He does. The Lions are playing good football. I think they won 3 in a row.
They have.
Buffalo played in this building last week. I think Buffalo's going to win the game, but I think Detroit covers.
Okay, put me down for that as well, plus the 9.5. Yeah. The game I'll be at on Thursday afternoon at 4:30 Eastern is an excellent game. Division opponents, Giants and Cowboys. Cowboys get new life, but, man, I'm not laying 8.5. Now, the Giants have multiple injury issues right now, but the 2 guys that they need badly are going to play, and that's Barkley and Jones. So I think that's too many points. 8.5, I'm going to take the points with the Giants in that game, thinking it's going to be a close game, but I still see Dallas winning between 3 and 6 points.
I like the Cowboys big. They're big. Tony Pollard is playing so well. He's so explosive.
Sure is. Yeah.
I think Micah Parsons will call fits. I like the Cowboys. Real quick, Lauren said here on Facebook Live, referring to the Lions, he said, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
He's very underrated. Yeah, he's very good. His brother is a wide receiver for the Bears, and I'll be damned. Have you ever seen his first name, JC? It's about this long. I don't know how you pronounce it. He's a good player, too.
They're really good players. I'm just happy for Dan Campbell. I think he saved his job with this latest run they're on. And if they come close to or beat Buffalo, he is good to go. Final game was interesting as well because you've got Belichick and the Patriots. Somehow they figure out a way to win games. No idea how. But they're playing a Vikings team that's reeling after that bad loss to Dallas. But I can't see Minnesota playing this badly 2 weeks in a row, and they're only laying 2.5. At home, I'm going to take the Vikings to beat New England. I think that's a pretty safe pick there. I think Minnesota gets back on track. So let's go. I agree.
So the only difference we have this week, I got the Cowboys, you got the Giants.
Okay, there you go. And but you got Ole Miss, right?
No, I Mississippi State.
Oh, you took State. I'm sorry, I
think State's the better football team. Ole Miss is kind of a smoke and mirrors.
Just try. So I'm going to hockey tonight. Your little hockey update for everybody. Stars play the Blackhawks. Saw the Stars last week. And right now, don't look, but the Boston Bruins, who is, of course, my team, has won something like 16 out of 18 games to start the season. It's one of the fastest starts in NHL history. Just throwing that out there. Big night tonight at American Airlines Arena. Big day tomorrow at Jerry World. And then we've got Friday, outstanding football with Florida and Florida State. I think they're going to play a great game. I think both teams are going to play maybe their best game of the season in that situation. And I'm really excited about that. We'll talk about it Friday. But I want you to just try to remember, if you can, to ask Mike Morgan what he thinks about the playoff thing.
Van Der has a good question here.
Okay.
He says, Shane, with your deep roots in Mississippi, compare the Egg Bowl to Florida, Georgia. I don't think there's any comparison. I think there's so much hatred in the state of Mississippi.
They won't even talk about the other school's name. The school up north in Starkville, Ole Miss is known as T-Sun, T-S-U-N, the school up north. And Ole Miss looks down to Mississippi State as if they're in the they're the state's basement. You're right. It's almost as passionate maybe as Alabama Auburn, truthfully.
Yeah.
Because really outside of Southern Mississippi University of Southern Mississippi, the state only has 2 schools, just like Alabama. And so USM is kind of like South Alabama. They're kind of off the grid there in terms of rivalry, even though I'm sure they'd like to be involved. But Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss, that's all you got in the state. So you're on one side or the other, and there's no in between.
Well, the biggest difference between Florida and Georgia, I mean, there are Gators that live in the state of Georgia. There are dogs that live in the state of Florida. But we're talking within the state.
Yeah.
That's why there's so much
one
hatred.
side or the other. Yeah, it's one side or the other. The Egg Bowl's a big deal, dude. And they get the country to themselves. The college football fans, that is. The NFL kind of stepped on them a little bit with their game, but QB, this is a great. It's amazing, it's just kind of bittersweet because this is a great weekend. The rivalry weekend is unbelievable. It's really what we wait for throughout the year, but it signifies the end of the season, basically, in the regular season. And now we just have a few teams playing in the postseason. So until they get to the playoff, this is what we got. So,
all right, a couple more texts and we're out of here. Okay. This is from Chris in Cottondale. When watching practice, have you seen Max Brown throw it around? If so, what kind of arm does he have? I know he's supposed to have a good legs. Will he have a chance to compete in the spring? I'm sure they'll give him a chance. He's very athletic. I would say an erratic thrower, has a good arm, but athletic, can run around for sure. This is from Georgia Gator. Shane, do you see anyone able to beat the Mutts to prevent them from going back to back? No, I do not.
No, I do
Living
not.
among these bandwagon fans would be unbearable. Also, do you ever think about growing the mullet back? Nah, no mullet. My kid had it a couple of years ago on the team, but that was his choice. That wasn't mine. But no mullet for me. No mullet. I actually need a haircut now. I hate it when my hair gets long or bushy.
Well,
all right, JC.
Yeah.
Don't eat too much turkey. Real quick, what jersey are you wearing to the game tomorrow?
I'll be in the 4. Prescott for sure.
You're wearing the Dak Prescott jersey,
and it'll be the blue one. It'll be the blue one, not the white one. They're going to wear white for the game, but I'll be in the blue one. And then tonight it's the Jamie Benn, Captain of the Stars jersey at the American Airlines. It's just so great. And we were in that great weather in Pittsburgh just 3 or 4 days ago. Oh my God, how much fun was that? So I just hate that this is the end of the year, man. We're getting to the end of the road. It's happened so fast. It's unbelievable.
Yes, it has. It goes fast. All right, JC, happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you on
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Okay.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll be joined by Mike Morgan from ESPN. Get his thoughts on college football. You're watching and listening. Pot Up Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker M.M. Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Celebration Points where the Gators go to celebrate. Premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, International Diamond Center, Regal Cinemas, Dave & Buster's, Nike, Wawa, the Gadget Guys, and the HBC's restaurant. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, now selling Head Beer Coach American Lager in draft and 16-ounce cans. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. Let's go to the Titan Tomorrow Hotline now. We're joined by ESPN's Mike Morgan. Good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Shane. I hope you and the family are ready for a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Ready to eat and watch football. That's about what we do year in and year out. Nothing really changes.
Me too.
Yeah. Mike, I want to start first with, we know what the rankings were. They came out last night. JC wanted me to ask you, about when the 12-team playoff comes about, When is that supposed to schedule anyway? 24? 25?
Well, it's still in flux, right? So like the
Okay.
best case scenario would be 24. The worst case scenario, we ride out this contract, which is a relic at this point, and we go to 26. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll have one more year of this, 4, and then we go to 12 in 2024. The money is too big not to. You figure it out. You work out the logistics, and you do the best you can to make the Rose Bowl happy. And if they're not happy, well, then so what? You move on.
Yeah, JC wanted me to ask you. So he thinks that they should allow, when the 12-team playoff comes about, that the top 4 teams get a home game. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm all in on that. I mean, I want to see. Look, I don't want to get rid of the bowl games entirely. I understand the importance of keeping some structure there. But whether we call those games bowl games or not, I want to see more on-campus games. I call bowl games every year, and people always point out, hey, Mike, I saw you on the XYZ Bowl. There weren't a whole lot of people there, and I always have to point out, well, it doesn't matter because these are made for TV events anyway, right? I mean, that's where the money's coming from. So whether they sell 50,000 tickets or 15,000 tickets, they're still doing okay financially. That being said, it's so much better for the sport to have a full stadium, true environment, and I'm sure JC had this point, and I would agree with it. You want to reward the teams that earned those buys. You want to reward the teams that had the better record. So in other words, when people say, well, there's nothing to play for when we go to 12, because if you already know you're in, then if you lose the game, then who cares? There's always something to play for. The conference championship games, for example, even if both SEC teams are in a given year, well, only one is going to get the first round bye. We could make it so that only the top teams get to play a home game. So you keep that motivational scale all the way through for teams, even if they know they've clinched a playoff berth in the 12, there's still things to play for.
After the release last night, obviously a couple of 2-loss teams are ahead of some 1-loss teams. Do you agree with that? I mean, because I still think Southern Cal and Clemson deserve to be ahead of Alabama and LSU right now. They may not have played the schedule, but that's not their fault. I just still have a hard time seeing a 2-loss team getting in. But were you surprised at where they had Clemson and SC?
A little bit, not completely. I tell you the most important thing, and I watched for the first time this year. I watched the entire 1-hour show. I had nothing better to do. I just watched it and I listened to the analysis and listened to old Boo go up there and say a whole lot of words without saying a whole lot of sense. I think the biggest thing was they basically told the whole world. They put to bed if there was any controversy if LSU beats Georgia. They basically told the whole world if LSU beats Georgia, they're in. Like there's no doubt, there's no controversy. If they pull that off, a 2-loss LSU will be in the playoff. I don't think the committee wanted any part of telling the SEC champion, particularly a brand name with a huge following that might light up torches and circle the people that make these decisions if they don't get in. They wanted to make sure that it be known that LSU is going to get in. So that was the biggest thing. That now after that, where some of these teams are, like, I just had Alabama last week, and look, they're certainly talented enough to be in this thing. But you're right, they did lose those 2 games by a combined 4 points, but they lost them, and that matters. So where Alabama is now, look, if Clemson wins the next 2, they're going to leapfrog Alabama. I'm pretty positive of that. So I don't worry too much about where Alabama is now. But I think we're headed toward a beauty pageant of if chalk holds, let's just say, Georgia, Ohio State, TCU all went out. Now we're at a beauty pageant for which 1-loss team gets in there. And there's your drama, there's your controversy. But I don't think we have much more than that, unless it's a chaotic final 2 weeks where you have a bunch of upsets where LSU. I mean, if LSU wins, Georgia's in. I get it. They didn't have the strongest schedule in the world, but there's no way they're sticking their nose up at a 12-1 Georgia team that's a defending national champion that has their starting quarterback back and maybe their best offense under the Kirby Smart era. So that would provide a little bit of nuance to this whole thing. And if Michigan beats Ohio State, I think Ohio State gets in as a one-loss team. So, and I think TCU has zero margin for error. So I think Clemson needs help. I think if chalk holds up, it's pretty obvious who the top three would be. If LSU wins the SEC, they're going. And if Ohio State loses to Michigan in a close game, I think they're still going.
Yeah, it's a lot will be said here in this week and next week for sure. We had a couple people ask on Facebook Live if I thought the rivalry between Florida and Florida State would get back to how it was in the 90s. It's going to take some time, folks, because you got to remember in the 90s, both teams were always in the top 10 or even in the top 5 when they played. And it's going to take a long time for both programs to get to that point. Wouldn't you agree with that, Mike?
100%. I mean, look, this is you know it because you played in it during that time. I was a student at that time and continued to cover that game for a while. And you had two things that you just can't match right now. You had two programs that were elite level every year. Like you could set your watch to it. Florida and Florida State were going to be top 10 programs. And so there was a lot riding on it. Could you imagine how many more national championships Steve Spurrier might have won if we had a 4-team playoff where you could lose to Florida State and still get in as the SEC champion? I mean, I thought about that as if his Hall of Fame career wasn't good enough. But you had that, and you had two Hall of Fame coaches that everybody everybody loved Bobby Bowden. Some people hated Steve Spurrier, but whether you love or hate, that's good. I don't think Mike Norvell and Billy Napier bring the same emotional construct to the game for people that aren't fans of both schools. It's always going to mean a lot for fans of both schools, but I'm with you. I caught some of your conversation with JC. You know, you do like you go to an Egg Bowl, and I've called a couple of those. Like it is different in that even when those programs aren't good, it's the only thing going on in the state. I covered South Carolina Clemson for years. It's the only thing going on in the state. There's a lot more going on in the state of Florida. It's a massive state. It has a massive pro presence. There are other programs like Miami and UCF that are relevant. And so it is hard for me to see this rivalry lose a little bit of its status. And the only way it's going to get back there is if both these programs simultaneously are really good. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. Like every time we think one program's on the rise, the other one turns into a dumpster fire. You need both of them to be really healthy at the same time, and that hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah. The talent. I mean, people talk about those 90s games. If you looked on the field, you saw 22 players on offense and defense. About 20 of those guys were going to be playing on Sundays. It's not like that at Florida and Florida State right now.
Let me ask you. Yeah. Can I ask you the 91 game that you guys won, was it 14-9?
Yeah.
I remember I had Harrison Houston in my basketball 2 class back in the day. Was that ball tipped when he caught it?
No. So what happened was I got flushed out of the pocket, and Terrell Buckley, my high school teammate, who now I'm coaching with in the XFL, for some reason thought I was going to run the ball. So he came up, and then it was like a safety, I believe, or a linebacker that was on Harrison, and I just kind of lobbed it. But I don't believe it was tipped. If that's the one you're referring to on the long 70-something yard touchdown.
Yeah. That was the play of the game.
Yeah, I don't think it was tipped at all. But, that place was crazy in that game. Speaking of the Egg Bowl, there's a lot of noise about Lane Kiffin going to Auburn. First of all, I want to get your thoughts on who you think wins the Egg Bowl, and do you think Lane takes the Auburn job?
I just had Mississippi State versus Georgia 2 weeks ago, and now that was against Georgia's defense. Nobody can block Jalen Carter in college football, and so that disrupts Mike Leach's offense, and et cetera, et cetera. Ole Miss to me looked like a team that checked out last week. I know they scored some, oh, by the way, touchdowns, but I think the distractions are getting to them. I think once they lost that game to Alabama in the fourth quarter, it got to them. As you mentioned, Mike Leach needs a win. I would not be surprised if State wins it, unless Ole Miss, I mean, if they're all in and it's kind of a win-one for the Kipper, and he tells them, look, I'm not going anywhere, then that could be a nice emotional boost. But that kind of leads into your second question. Jane, I wish I knew what was going on in Lane's brain, but I just don't. I don't know what. Here's the way I look at it. Lane, if he wants to, and I don't know everything that motivates Lane. I know what motivates him in his social life. I've heard plenty about that. But in terms of, like, he could stay in Oxford and he could make $8-9 million a year the rest of his time there. If he wins 8 games, he's a god. He's never going to be on the hot seat. He's never going to have to deal with a whole lot of drama from boosters. But there's a ceiling. You're not winning the SEC at Ole Miss. You're not going to the playoffs at Ole Miss. At least that hasn't been the case now for about, I don't know, a half a century, if not more. If you go to Auburn, you're going to make a lot of money as well, probably a little more. You're going to have to deal with all kinds of drama. Every time you lose to Alabama, people are going to hate you for it. Every time you lose 3 games, it's a terrible season. And every 3 or 4 years, you'll probably be on the hot seat like Gus Malzahn was. So which one do you choose? You know, are you so competitive that you say, you know what? I've done everything I can at Ole Miss. I want a chance at a place that I can truly win a national title, which has been done at Auburn. And SEC championships have been done. Even Gus Malzahn beat Alabama and Nick Saban 3 times. It can be done. And Lane says, hey, if Gus can do it, I can. Or do you just kind of take the smooth ride and you just lay back and you continue to have fun, enjoy the Grove, win a lot of games, but not play for championships, make a lot of money, and just ride that out? I don't know which one is better, and I don't know which one fits Lane better, but he's going to have that decision to make.
Yeah, no question. And Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville, North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Mike Morgan from ESPN on the Titan More Hotline. All right, so tomorrow night, not tomorrow night, but Friday night, Gators travel to Tallahassee. FSU's had a really good year. What do you think about this game?
I think the difference is quarterback play. I mean, I think that's why Florida State is a favorite. They probably have a slightly better defense. I haven't seen a ton of Florida State this year, but overall, they've got a quarterback who is now playing his very best football and leading that offense with confidence, and they're moving the ball up and down the field. And then there's Anthony Richardson, who's got to be one of the most polarizing quarterbacks to discuss. Not polarizing in the sense that, you know, people dislike him personally, but a lot of people look at his game and they say, where's the improvement? What is he doing? Where are we going? The loss to Vanderbilt, I realize he stockpiled a bunch of numbers, but he also missed some really key throws that you just expect an SEC quarterback to make. He's not running like he used to. I don't understand that. And so, again, we know it's there. Every now and then he'll ball out like he did against Tennessee. And if he does that, well, then you got a chance. But is that defense going to stop a red-hot Florida State offense? Probably not. So you got to win almost a high-scoring game at that point. I think Florida State certainly is the favorite for a reason. They're just playing better ball, and they've got better quarterback play.
Yeah, makes sense. The big one in the horseshoe, Ohio State and Michigan. Why do I think Ohio State's just a lot better than Michigan? Am I crazy to think that?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, look, we could easily be talking about a Michigan team that just spit the bit against Illinois. You know, they had to rally the troops late in that game to pull a rabbit out of the hat. I think Ohio State, I don't know about much better, but I think they're better. And they're at home, and there's the revenge factor. Now, those stars, to me, are aligned where Ohio State wins the game, especially here's the thing. I'm a big, and as a Heisman voter, Blake Corum, I've been saying for a while now that if he has a great game and Michigan wins, he's definitely going to New York and he should be getting some votes. Well, now we don't even know if he's going to play. Now, if he doesn't play, I don't think Michigan's got a shot. And you know what? I think he's got to be a factor, and Michigan's got to play some ground and pound in order to win that game. I'd be holding my breath on that injury report because it is a knee we're talking about. He didn't play much at all in the second half. So without Blake Corum, there's no question in my mind I'm going Ohio State. If he's healthy and he's a factor, then I'm hoping for, and I want to see it, I'm hoping for a competitive game.
The Iron Bowl. Cadillac's done a tremendous job with this team. They're playing to go to a bowl. I think they're still going to go to a bowl game at 5-7. They have any shot of beating Alabama?
I don't think so. I did something, Shane, I don't always do. I got into town Thursday to call the Alabama game Saturday, and I was working a game with a guy named Dave Steckel. His brother was a former head coach of the Vikings. He's actually also going to coach in the XFL. He's going to be a linebacker coach for one of those teams. I can't remember who. Anyway, he said, Mike, you want to go to the Bama practice? They've invited us. And, I don't always get a whole lot out of that. I know you guys look at it. You're breaking down this, that, and the other. But I've seen enough Alabama where I'm pretty sure what I'm looking at. But I said, you know what? This is kind of unique. Let's do it. And we went in that indoor practice facility, and they're pumping in crowd noise. I could barely hear myself think, and I'm watching for 2 hours. And I've never seen such a well-oiled machine. Like, it was like they're getting ready for a military op. There's no slacking. There's no, we're playing a weak team this week, so we're not going to. No, that doesn't fly under Nick Saban. And when we sat down with Nick Saban, I can tell you that there is no lack of passion or being engaged or anything. I don't care if he's, 80 or 100. He is absolutely all in. And they're sitting there thinking we could easily be in this playoff discussion. It had not been for 2 points here, 2 points there. I say all that to say, looking at them and really putting them under a microscope, I almost forgot just how good they are. Now, they don't have the receivers that they normally do, okay? But everything else is there. I mean, everything else is pretty damn phenomenal. And I know the Cadillac Williams story has been a lot of fun, and people are getting a kick out of that, and some people even think he should be the coach. I think Alabama wins the game, though. I think Alabama wins it, and we could be looking at maybe like an Alabama-Clemson Orange Bowl, which would ordinarily be a hell of a game, but it's not a playoff game, so it won't get nearly the coverage.
Yeah. Andy asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Mike, do you know your TV bowl game assignment yet? Always love to catch your games. Yeah,
appreciate it, Andy. I'm working the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which is kind of cool. Last year, Barney and McGee did that game. They had some fun with it. We're going to have a little bit of a different broadcast. Eric McLean, I think, is a really good rising analyst, former Clemson Tiger offensive lineman with those Dabo title teams. He'll be with me as well as Tara Talmadge on the sideline. And I don't know the matchup yet, obviously, but the thing I like about those games, Shane, and I did the Cure Bowl in Orlando last year on the first day of the bowl season, is because unlike a lot of the games you're going to see, I mean, I heard you guys debating whether or not Anthony Richardson is going to play in the bowl game, right? That's going on everywhere. Even the people around Alabama told me that they're expecting opt-outs for a potential Orange Bowl or Sugar Bowl. When you have those teams, those so-called mid-major teams from the Sun Belt, the American, the MAC, and they're playing in a bowl game, these are things that are not happening. There's no talk about players opting out. There's no talk about players preparing for the draft. And there's no talk about, well, are they motivated, which is what we always seem to talk about in every other bowl game. Well, is Florida going to be motivated in this game? Is Tennessee going to be motivated in this game? I hate that. I absolutely hate that. When you see those early games, you don't have to worry about any motivation. These kids They don't get that national spotlight very often. So, yeah, they're motivated, and they're not sitting there talking to their agent saying, well, maybe we should sit this game out. They don't do that. Everybody plays. Everybody's motivated. Everybody's all in.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, last thing before we let you go. I want to get your top 3 Heisman guys right now. And my other question about the Heisman, Drake May obviously has had a phenomenal year. I love the kid, love how he plays, had a touchdown drop to win the game against Georgia Tech. But does a guy like Drake May playing at North Carolina ever going to have a chance to win the Heisman? And the second part to my question is, there's been a lot of rumors, and we've had people send Facebook and text today. Want to know if you've heard anything about Sam Hartman to the Gators.
You were the first person that mentioned that to me is just something that's out there. I don't have any inside information on that. I'm a big Sam Hartman guy. I will tell you that. I've sat down with the kid because I've done a couple of his games, and he is impressive not only on the field, but he's, perhaps with a program like Florida that's trying to, again, change the culture. That's the kind of thing that they're looking for if there's a spot there. But I don't know. I'd love to know the answer. I think there's going to be all kinds of portal rumors. And again, we stack that portal up every time this year. And then what happens is a lot of those kids, they don't wind up going anywhere because you still have their signing period coming up here in a couple weeks. You got all these things happening at the same time, which is just bad upon bad. I mean, coaches can't focus on anything these days. When you put all this at this time of the year, I think that's a mistake. So I don't know, but I would imagine the Gators are going to be looking for a quarterback in the portal. I can't imagine they would not be. I think they're going to need to bring, even if Anthony is back, they're going to need to bring somebody in. The Heisman question, I think. Well, let me answer your second Heisman question. The stars were aligned for May to actually be a Heisman Trophy candidate at North Carolina. All you got to do is not get shut out at home in the second half by Georgia Tech, win that game, pull off an upset against Clemson in the championship game, finish the season 12-1, and he's a legitimate candidate because everybody I talk to, Shane, everybody thinks he is going to be the top pick next year. Like you could almost have a tanking for May situation going on in the NFL because his overall skill set, the NFL scouts are drooling. The only other guy that even comes close, the only other guy that even comes close is Caleb Williams, who I think is going to come down to C.J. Stroud for the Heisman, unless, again, chaos, maybe Max Duggan sneaks in there. We talked about Quorum earlier, but I think right now the Heisman could very well be a two-man race between Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud. But May is going to be the dude next year that, whether he wins the Heisman or not, whether they win 10 games or not, the NFL is already just salivating to take that kid.
Yeah, I heard a rumor. Of course, they're all rumors that Ohio State is going to go hot and heavy after Drake May.
Nothing would surprise me because it's all legal. Like you can do this and be transparent about it. This is happening all the time. It's another thing. We sat down with Saban. He went on a 10-minute diatribe, unprompted, about the way this is going with NIL and the no transfer rule. You have to recruit your own roster, and other coaches are basically, in the NBA we call this tampering. We don't have a tampering penalty in college football. It's just you have to go ahead and convince your guys to stay because he is on the phone with another coach from another program. I promise you he is. If he's any good, and if you don't have a great program, they figure you're unhappy, you're ready to go, you're ready to leave, maybe you're not getting enough playing time. And so that is going on right now as we speak, nonstop.
Yeah, and what they need to do is figure out some way to punish people for tampering, not taking away scholarships, not suspending coaches. How about it's $1 million for you, Nick Saban, or I'm just throwing a coach out there. You're going to have to pay a check, write a check for $1 million for your tampering issues. I guarantee you start taking money out of their pocket, it's no different than the NFL. When you get fined, you start thinking a little differently. So, Mike, good stuff as always, buddy. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next week, my man.
Always enjoy it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and all your great listeners out there. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right, that's Mike Morgan. Join us on the Titan Memorial Hotline. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com at 352-240-1779. Hope everybody out there has a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. Enjoy the football. Enjoy your family and food. We'll be back on Friday. See you then. Take care.